Welcome back. My name is Darren Thomas and I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. In this particular video, we're going to get a brief introduction into how to make bar graphs using Power BI. We won't cover everything, but we will go over some of the basics. So let's see what we can learn. So we're going to start by, let me slow down by saying this is what it looks like when you open Power BI. We're going to select an Excel workbook. There are other types of data sources available, of course, but for most of us, you're probably going to be working with an Excel workbook as you begin your journey here. Now, once you click on that, you're going to have to pick your file on your computer. You cannot see that on my screen, but you will do that. So you select it, and then it starts to think, and then you have to tell it what sheet you want if there's more than one sheet inside your Excel workbook, and then you click load. And then once all that is done, you can see over here a column called data pops up, and all of our data is right here. If you want to see the data, you can click on table view. And this is all the data right here. You can see I have columns. Each column represents a variable. So the first few rows columns are class, gender, major, and program. Those represent the demographic variables in this particular study. And then the I1 to like I60 or whatever represents the various items from the survey. That's what they are. And then towards the end, I have some combined metrics where I combine several of the items to make the actual constructs for them. So that's how that works out. Now back over here, we're going to actually make our visual. We're going to make a bar graph. So the first thing we're going to do is click on cluster column chart like so. You can see it starts over here in the upper left-hand corner. Now, what I want to do is I want to see for item 1, how many people picked, one, how many people picked 2, 3. They could pick anywhere from 1 to 5. I want to figure that out first. That is my first goal. That's almost like my first research question, if you will, something I want to discover from my data. So I'm going to click on item 1 here. I'm going to drag it down to x-axis. If you look at my bar graph, nothing's happened yet. I have to click on item 1 again and put it on the y-axis. And so now you see I have a little bit of a chart. I'll make it bigger for you. But I'm not quite done. I want the count, but here I have the sum. Now essentially it's the same proportions, but I want my count. So to do that, I click on the y-axis here. Instead of sum of I1, I'm going to click on count. And so I get slightly different values. And so you can see here, 3 is still the most common. You can see 5 went down. Remember, 5 is worth 5 points each time. That's why it was out of proportion, if you will. But when you count it, it gets more balanced out. And so this is almost like a histograph, except, the bars will be touching, if you will. But you can see the spread and the distribution of the data. Most people picked the value 3 when they responded to item 1. Now, we can play with this. If you click right here on the format your visual is near the top, click on this. And let's say we want to get rid of these Y and X axis titles. We can do that. So for the X axis, I could actually get rid of the title by clicking right here on off, if I really wanted to. And you can see the I1 over here disappeared. Same idea for the Y axis, click on that, click on title. And if you look at that count of I1, it's going to disappear when I click off. So now that's gone. If I want to change the title of the actual graph, I click on General, and you can see the title right here. I can turn it off if I want, like so, or whatever I want. So count of item 1 is probably enough information. And of course, you can center it if you want by horizontal alignment, center, whatever you want. There's a whole lot of features. Let's just keep it simple like that. Okay. So you got the basics there. We can also add things to filter the data or also to the legend. So let me show you that real quick. Let's take gender. Let's say I want to know more about gender. I can take the gender column or variable, put it under legend, and now I have a breakdown by gender. That's one way I can approach this. So it looks like the orange represents the male, the dark purple represents the female, and we have a couple people who left it blank. All right, so that's one way. You can also filter the data. So if you look at the filters here, and there's a whole lot of different ways to do this, I add gender to one of the data fields, If I only want to see females, I can click on female and the data only shows females here. If I want to see only males, I click on males, etc. There's lots of different ways you can do this. The most important thing for you is to make sure you know what you want to know. That's really what it's all about here. We can also add something called a tooltip. Tooltip gives you data when you hover over the bar. So we kind of have a little bit of information in the tooltip already, but we can add to that. So if I add social life to the tooltip, now when I hover over this, oh, it's giving me the sum. Well, let me change that to the average. So when I hover over number 5, it shows me that the average social life score for people who selected number 5 on item 1 is 3.26. For people who selected number 3 on item 1, their average social life score was 3.32, etc. So you can see that there's lots of different ways you can learn things playing with the data using Power BI. But you have to have a strong sense of what you want to know. In general, you're probably not going to care what the average social life score is for people who select item number 3. That probably has no practical application, although I cannot speak for your individual project, but it is possible. One of the things that kind of makes it kind of counterintuitive for using Power BI is that you cannot see the logic flow as if you were to code it. If you were to code it, you can see everything you're trying to do. You have a record of what you were doing, and it allows you to go back and to modify and to change things as appropriately. But sometimes when you just start clicking and playing around, it's easy to get lost and to lose track of exactly what you're trying to do. But that is pretty much it for this video. Why don't we do a summary and then conclude this? So in this particular video, we learned how to make a very, very basic bar graph inside Power BI. We learned how to set up and count the number of values for an individual column or individual variable, how many people selected for this and that, etc. We looked at how to splice it using a categorical variable if you desire to, using legend. We also looked at how to remove the X and Y axes titles and also how to modify the title at the top. And of course, there's way more we could have did, and there was no way to cover everything in this particular video, but that's essentially it for today. So, my name is Darren Thomas. I am the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you again for watching, and you take care.